was there issues going on before that sort of happened? Like, were you unhappy with the situation in WWE at the time?
I mean, I was unhappy. Yeah. I ended up going to rehab for drug and alcohol addiction in late April. So it'll be all throughout May of 2017. And by the time I came back, dealing with WWE without being on drugs, all of a sudden was not as fun. And I should probably say I was more fragile. It's like there was a filter in which I experienced the world before, and that was through taking drugs all the time. And when you're newly clean and sober, everything's a bit more intense. And WWE was intense, and you're working for Vince McMahon. And so the last few months there, I was like Googling, just different jobs I could do, or Googling new wrestling costumes. Maybe I'll go back and be a pro wrestler. And so it was starting to be a bad fit for me, certainly. And when I went out and I took that picture, and when I subsequently put it online on my Instagram, as I was standing in Gorilla, just like, you know what, F it, and I put it online. I knew that it was probably going to make somebody mad. I mean, it was not something I would have done 2 years before that, when I was like really cared about having that job, and I was just trying to not get fired. But I knew it would probably make somebody mad. I didn't think they were going to fire me over it. I didn't think it would be like that. I thought I would, somebody would say something about it, and they'd be like, well, he's good at his job, so let's, we'll keep him around. And
so who sat down and had that conversation with you? Like, after, like, when you posted the photo, was it straight away? Was it that night, or was it sort of like?
So that night, 10 minutes after it went up, I was in the writer's room, and my boss and Road Dogg and Michael Hayes, they came into the room. They cleared everybody else out, and my boss Dave. And Dave's a great guy, man. He's awesome. All those guys are awesome, man. I had a great experience. I miss those guys more than anything. But Dave, being my boss, had to be like, hey, what the hell is this? Why am I seeing this on here? And I just kind of was like, yeah, I don't know. I guess I wasn't thinking. And Triple H was very upset by it. And so I, later on in that evening during Raw, I went and I talked to Triple H, and Hunter was cool about it. He was like, geez, man, what the hell were you thinking? And I was like, I guess I wasn't. And then, we talked for a while, and he gave me some advice, and he's like, well, no, he said that when he started in the company, somebody gave him this advice, and it was this. It was, around here, you've always got a gun to your head, but just don't give other people the bullets. Which I guess is something for WWE, which is the place where you're a gun to your head. But I cleared the air with Hunter, so I don't know who brought it to Vince. Hunter said he wasn't going to. I don't know who did. Maybe my boss, just because like he needed to show Vince that, because if Vince found out some other way, I mean, that's what I would guess happened, but I don't know. But my guess is it went something like this, that I'm guessing my boss went to Vince and said, hey, sir, just so you are aware, this happened. I talked to him, Road Dogg talked to him, Michael talked to him, and, we've got it, so whatever. And Vince is probably like, oh, God, you can't look at him just trying to get himself over. Because that was Vince's, one of his problems with me, because I'm a bit eccentric. I guess some people think I'm eccentric. And so, when I was wearing a pink collared shirt or something, or I had a purse, and Vince is always like, oh, he's like the Nakamura of the wrestler of the writing scene.
I don't think that Vince really understands, like, modern, like the way people are in the modern world today. Like, I think by all sounds of things, he definitely sounds like he's still stuck in somewhere between 1986 and 1988.
Well,
but
he's certainly stuck in his own world, being a billionaire. You got to believe that how he experiences the world is just not the world we experience. But yeah, so that was Vince's. If Vince had a problem with me, it was that I was a little too flashy, and to him, this was probably just another sort of manifestation of this guy being a little too out there. And I'm guessing it was his decision to fire me, but I could be wrong, man. That's somebody else could have brought it to him. You know, I have no idea. But ultimately, the following week, actually, where was I? I went to Italy actually with my family for a few days. Then did Raw and SmackDown in Colorado, and then once we got back from Colorado, when I was in the office on Thursday, so it's about a week and a half later that I was brought into HR, and I was let go, and it was great. It was there was one moment as I was about to get on the elevator when I was told, hey, they want to see you in HR, and I knew it was going to happen. So I go to the elevator and I'm standing there like, wow, this is it. Like, today's the day. This is happening right now. I'm living through about to get fired from WWE. That's a relief and great.
But that's insane. Like, did they sit down and go, well, you took a selfie with the Young Bucks and Marty Scurll and Cody Rhodes, and we don't allow you to take selfies here. I'm just imagining the ridiculousness of the conversation, though. Like, yeah. I'm not trying to make fun of it. It's just
the where they tried to frame it was based off of something in like the social media clause of whatever agreement I signed, or whatever agreement I signed was short, but saying that you won't disparage the company on social media, while you're working for the company. And so they said that me putting this photo out there with, hashtag, BC invasion with those guys who were there, they were there to disparage the company. And I sort of latched on and promoted them who were disparaging the company. And it was all fine either way, however they wanted to slice it. I mean, I knew, they could fire me for whatever. That there was nothing in the contract that said it was the agreement, it's like a 1.5 page contract. It's like nothing, basically saying, I'll write for you and you'll pay me as long as either of us want that to happen. And so they didn't need a reason to fire me in my mind. And I was, it was a relief. I would have never done it myself. I would have never had the balls to quit the place. And it was such a blessing to go. Sometimes I wish that I would have left under better circumstances, that I would have just said, hey, I think this isn't a good fit anymore, and left on good terms. But the fallout from getting fired like that was a lot of fun. So no.
Oh, dude, I can just imagine. I was actually picturing Vince McMahon sitting there going, "Well, pal, we don't do selfies." I don't know, man, but we got a comment here from Angel Medina, who is a former ECW original and good friend of mine and co-host of mine from Wrestling with Tragedy. He says, I have a bitter relationship. Pro wrestling is like an abusive relationship. It beats you down and you still defend them.
Yeah. It's like when wrestling is your life and your world, it feels like that. It feels like a thing that's an abusive relationship, and you give and give and give and give, and all it seems to do is take. But every once in a while, there's this really brilliant moment. You go, yeah, this is why I'm doing it. But that's just, that's a perspective. And I used to have that perspective. I used to live in that world because wrestling was so important to me. It was my life. It was this thing I just, this passion I had. And now I've let go of that part of my relationship with wrestling. Wrestling doesn't have that sort of hold on me, and I don't have that sort of hold on it. It's just now something that I enjoy, that I do, that I get paid for. And it's a much healthier relationship, just to sort of, be there and be grateful for what it is, not trying to fill a hole in your soul with it. Like, oh, maybe if I'm a successful pro wrestler, I won't have this big hole in my soul. Because that's what I tried to do. I felt I had this hole inside of me, and I was trying to fill it with all these different things, and pro wrestling was certainly one of them. But now you just look at it, and I love it for all its absurdity. I love it when it's good. I love it when it's bad, because I am not so attached to it emotionally. I'm not going on the roller coaster ride. And that was great in my 20s to do that. It was great in my 20s to like just be so passionate and really care and really, live or die. I love this business, with pro wrestling. But it's much healthier and it's much more enjoyable. I enjoy pro wrestling now so much more because I'm not so wrapped into it. Hell yeah. I feel the same way. Oh, God.
Yeah, no, Angel's a great guy, man, and yeah, he's been in the business for over 20 plus years. So, but you know, you mentioned as well that you did a stint in rehab prior to your leaving of WWE. Let's go into that a little bit. Like, you know, obviously taking, you know, drugs and stuff like that. Was that something of your way to deal with working in the WWE, or was that something that you'd struggled with for years and years and years, and it just got to a point that you needed to address it?
Yeah, I started taking drugs when I was like 20. Glad you are happy in pro wrestling. Thank you. Yeah, when I was 20, I had gone through a breakup, and then I started drinking a little bit. I didn't drink before that, and I was like, oh, drinking. This is great. Your brain doesn't think so much. And when I took my first 2 Vicodin at 20 or 21, I mean, that was it. It was like, oh, it was this huge relief. It was like this weight off my chest. You know, I could finally breathe. And, you know, I don't know if I was depressed as a kid or depressed later. I mean, I was depressed at some point, or struggled with depression, however you want to say that. And so I started doing drugs, and I just wanted to feel like that all the time. And I tried to. For the next 12 years, I just, you know, whatever was in front of me. Opioids were definitely my drug of choice. But yeah, I mean, it's not how I dealt with WWE. It's how I dealt with everything. It's like, oh, you're upset, take a couple. Oh, you're sad, take a couple. You're mad, take a couple. Oh, you have to go and, you know, meet your girlfriend's parents. Here, take a couple. It'll ease you down. Oh, you want to celebrate? Here, take a few. We'll celebrate. Oh, we're at the casino. Here, take a few. Whatever. There's, you know, you. Sorry.
You justify taking it, and you justify, like, yeah, man, like, fuck, it's a Thursday, it's close to a weekend, like, let's take a couple, man.
Right. It's like first you just take them for special occasions, and then it's like Tuesday's a special occasion. Like, what's more special than Tuesday, guys? Yeah, that becomes your life, and it was my life for a while.
Yeah, man. Like, and you know exactly how you're saying that. As I went through the same thing when I quit smoking cigarettes. It's like, oh, I'll only smoke on the weekends. Oh, it's a Thursday. I've had a good week. I'll have a couple of cigarettes. There's like, I'll only smoke when I drink, and I maybe drink once a week. Then it's like, my wife's like, why are you drinking on a fucking Monday? Like, why are you having a beer? Oh, it's a Monday. I had a good training session. Let's, you know, justifying that to yourself to say, oh, no, it's okay. But the fact that you were able to sort of identify that and then go, well, hold on a second. I feel good when I'm taking this, but I can't keep living my life like this. You know, like to be able to say, you know, like anyone could sit down and have an intervention with you and say, listen, you have a problem. But I really think it comes down to the individual who's going through that, who's living that life, if they want to make that change. And that's something that clearly you've did. But for you, what was the breaking point where you went, I need to fix this?
Well, I was a pretty high functioning drug addict, all things considered. I mean, I ended up doing pretty well for myself, you know, at least in the business, and you know, yeah, pretty high functioning, I would say. So in my mind, it was a problem, but it wasn't really a problem. Really, part of what it did, it perpetuated the depression, right? And so you maybe you take drugs because you're depressed, but the drugs just sort of perpetuate depression and just make it worse and worse and worse. And so that was the problem. But in my head, it's like, well, I'm depressed. I guess that's just my homeostasis. That's my constant state. And so if I take drugs to not be depressed, I guess to sometimes not be depressed, I guess that's good and whatever. It was when I was going through a breakup that I ended up going to rehab, because I couldn't at that point handle. I was trying to get sober after the breakup, and then trying to get sober and go through the breakup. It was just not going to happen, and it was going to get worse. And I was on the floor of my friend Ryan's apartment. I was on my knees and I was crying, and I was thinking, man, I'm going to go get a fifth of vodka. I'm going to go to the strip club. I'm going to find some heroin. And my buddy Ryan goes, hey, what are you thinking? And I just go, I think I need to go to rehab. And I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking about getting heroin at the strip club. But like divine intervention, I guess. And it was. And through that gift and through desperation, I was on a flight the next day to Scurry, Texas. No direct flights there, but to Dallas, and then to Scurry, to the Treehouse is the name of the place I went to. And it wasn't pleasant, but it was great. It really was a time that I was able to distance myself, not just from drugs, but from just the life I was in. You know, pro wrestling, all of it. See, we're all of us are in this bubble that is our lives. We're all living these stories, and we're trapped in these stories, and we think these stories are reality because, like, it's all we know. It's what we're living in. So we can't imagine that the way we're living is just a story, and we can change our perspective and thus change our story whenever we want. I was given the grace of going 30 days away from everybody. Nobody's allowed to contact you. Nobody's allowed to talk to you, and you're only there to deal with yourself. And just having that distance from my life, just enough to go, yeah, I don't think I'm doing it right. Maybe I should be doing it different. And that sent me on a quite the journey the past 3+ years.
That's wild, man. And you know, and as you said, you went back into WWE in a position, you know, which, you know, as a fan, I've never worked for a major wrestling promotion, so you're the one who's best to say this. But from all accounts, which has been told in online and social media, being part of the writing team is probably one of the most intense, stressful positions one could have. You know, dealing with, like, you know, obviously the higher ups of WWE, but then dealing with, like, as we mentioned before, the egocentric talent, like, no, I don't want to do this, but not give you anything to go off. How stressful was that job for you?
I wasn't stressed at first. When I first got there, I was really happy to be there. And I look, and at that point in my life, again, I was all about it. To me, you know, I had this story in my head that I was the first independent wrestler to ever be on the writing team. And I was breaking down these, you know, barriers and all this sort of stuff. And then there's pressure on me now too, because I'm the first one. And if this goes bad, which it did. But I was good at my job.
You were there for a few years, man.
I was there for a couple years. But Vince McMahon, after the incident happened for me, he said, he told my boss to never hire an independent wrestler on the writing team again. So I got that going.
But like, were you ever, like, when you got signed to be part of the writing team, were you kind of like, I kind of wanted to be a wrestler in the ring, or was it like, no, this was an opportunity to work for WWE and to be part of creative? Was that not a major thing for you, or were you just, like I said, were you happy to be a part of the team?
No, at that point, I had an incident in July of 2014 where it was really brought in front of me, you know, that I wasn't supposed to be a wrestler. I was supposed to be a writer. I was supposed to go into creative. I was that was my journey. That's where my journey was going. And once I realized that, once I had that epiphany, it was like I had been knocking my head up against the brick wall for 15 years or whatever. And then I looked over and go, oh, there's a door right there. Why didn't anybody tell me? And I just walked right through the door. It was so I was gung-ho, all in on going into creative. Like that was it. I mean, that's what I was good at from, like I said, from the time I was 15 anyway, was the creative aspect, the storytelling aspect, psychology aspect, character aspect. So I was completely gung-ho about it. There was nothing inside of me that thought I was going to be a pro wrestler again. Hell yeah, dude. Thanks, Angel. Appreciate it, dude. Oh, man. Love Homicide. Love Dada. Hell yeah.
Angel is, like I said, he's a guy who's been in the business for 28 years, who's been part of ECW.
Right?
Yeah, he was the Baldies. Yeah, that's correct.
All right. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I know. He came. I met him at a few Ring of Honor shows in where did he? In the last
early 2000s, I think, because that's when he had a few friends with him.
I met him there. God, was he in St. Louis? Does he live in St. Louis, by any chance?